So this is a clip from the current autocratic administration. Well, Ben Carson's still in the mix. He's like a strange character. You know, Dr. Oz is more of a straightforward grifter. Kennedy, obvious grifter, been grifting for anti-vax causes his whole life. You know, probably believes in it too, actually. So it's kind of a mix between grifter and charlatan and liar. And people who are responsible for a lot of like damage to public health systems. I don't know who this person is. I believe this is, what's her name? The Miss Gobbles. Is Gobbles her last name? I don't know. Goebbels. So this is a little press conference they were doing, talk about different guidance, including guidance on alcohol. So you might have seen that the Republican President Donald Trump and the administration gave up on advice to limit alcoholic beverages. So that was something they wanted to do as part of their Make America Healthy Again agenda, was to abandon long-standing U.S. recommendations that Americans restrict alcohol consumption to 2 beverages a day for men and 1 for women in favor of simply advising that they consume less to be healthier. Well, let's just see this clip, because it's kind of shockingly embarrassing.
It had to do with alcohol. Secretary Kennedy or Dr. Oz, could you explain the science behind the new language on not saying 2 drinks for men and 1 drink for a woman every day would be healthy, and whether or not the industry had an impact on the language of moderation versus just saying alcohol is not healthy and you shouldn't drink it?
So I'll say, before we hear the response by this entertainer, he's just an entertainer, obviously. We all know Dr. Oz is he's like Dr. Phil, but even he's like just a different type of unhelpful. But yeah, just to be clear, like, people are drinking less alcohol these days, and also alcohol companies are struggling. My understanding is the alcohol industry is struggling significantly. I don't know all the ins and outs, but like Jim Beam or whatever, like Jim Beam delay production or something. There was like major, yeah, I mean, there's like been major issues in the industry. Like Jim Beam, like a major bourbon maker, paused production for a full year. Like, there's been all kinds of like serious, you could look up like dozens of examples. Like, there's a lot of serious issues in the alcohol industry. So the idea that the alcohol industry would have been lobbying this extremely oligarchic administration to, make bizarre policies that might slightly help them is not far-fetched. Let's see Mr. Oz's response here.
So alcohol is a social lubricant that brings people together.
Okay, bit of a swing and a miss for a start, right? The question was, why did you change the guidance? So alcohol has always been a social lubricant. We know that. I mean, it also kind of, sometimes it makes things a little too lubricated, you might say, and people are slipping and sliding all around with their impulses. But okay, it's just a little bit of a swing and a miss for a start, because that never changed. The social lubricant, the social lubrication. So, and I'm not going to make comments about how Pete Hegseth has such a problem with alcohol that it's caused him significant issues at his former employers, and it's well known, and he had to publicly say he was going to stop drinking to take this role as warmonger. And I'm not going to talk about Jeanine Pirro and how she's seemed sloshed in a lot of her like work for Fox News. I'm not going to go there, because I don't think you have to. I don't think that really is relevant. I mean, it might be slightly. But anyway, social lubricant. Okay, so new science has revealed that alcohol is a social lubricant.
In the best case scenario,
Let's hear Mr. Oz.
I don't think you should drink alcohol, but it does allow people an excuse to bond and socialize, and there's probably nothing healthier than having a good time with friends in a safe way.
In the best case scenario, I don't think you should use alcohol, but there's probably nothing healthier than using a little alcohol. Okay.
If you look at the blue zones, for example, around the world where people live the longest, alcohol is sometimes part of their diet. Again,
this is the scientific literacy that they want us to have, and the logical and critical thinking literacy that they want us to hear someone say that. If you look at zones where people are healthy in the world, sometimes alcohol is a part of the equation. Okay. How often? And what's the R value on that? What's What's the association here? Like, how strong is it? Is alcohol associated with negative health outcomes as well, or only some positive ones? And sometimes is carrying a lot of weight in that sentence.
And there's probably nothing healthier than having a good time with friends in a safe way. If you look at the blue zones, for example, around the world where people live the longest, alcohol is sometimes part of their diet. Again,
Sometimes part of their diet. It just means nothing. Like, it's so unhelpful. Oh man, this guy should be humiliated, and his family and friends must be so humiliated. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, really, is it worth it? Like, weren't you already rich?
in small amounts, taken very judiciously, and usually in a celebratory.
He sounds drunk. Is he slurring his words? I'm not even trying to be a dick. Is he slurring his words?
Or died, again, small amounts, taken very judiciously.
Taken very judiciously. Say that again with me, Dr. Oz.
Alcohol is sometimes part of their diet. Again, small amounts, taken very judiciously.
Judiciously. Judiciously. Let's try that one more time.
Alcohol is sometimes part of their diet. Again, small amounts, taken very judiciously. And
to be fair, this press conference was at 11:30 p.m., so maybe he had, had to. I'm joking.
Usually in a celebratory fashion. So there is
usually in a celebratory fashion. I can tell you from working in addiction recovery, I worked at a rehab for several years, and I've certainly continued to work with people who struggle with addiction, but I worked in an actual rehab for alcohol and drugs. The alcoholics that I worked with were not taking alcohol judiciously, and they were not using it in a celebratory way. And it damages so much of people's lives and bodies. People who have damaged their liver and their bodies so much that it causes lasting consequences. Hepatitis, I believe, or like related health issues. And that's just one. Alcohol can cause so many problems. The idea that the social lubrication of alcohol. Okay, so this is exactly the argument they made during COVID, right? They said, no, we can't do any public health measures because it messes with our social lubrication. We need to be around each other. It's good for mental health. Yeah, it is good for mental health to be around each other, but it's irrelevant to the question of whether you're spreading a viral disease that's killing millions of people. And with alcohol, yes, of course, it's nice to be around each other. It's irrelevant to the question of whether the government should have a more specific guidance. Like, why do we have health departments if they can't give us specifics? If they're just going to be like, yeah, bro, I think maybe you shouldn't have another. Like, I think we have them to actually be a little more specific. So I do actually think it's really helpful for people to know, what do doctors and health officials say about how much alcohol is healthy? How much alcohol is moderate, right? That's a question. How much alcohol is moderate? It's subjective. So it would be good to have the authorities have some basic guidance on that. And it's irrelevant that alcohol is a social lubricant to the question of how much alcohol is good or bad for your body, man. We don't need you to tell us it's a social lubricant. And these 5 people on stage, I want them all to think about the people dying of alcohol diseases, alcohol-related diseases, including addiction to alcohol or medical issues related to alcohol consumption. Do you know how many relationships are destroyed by alcohol consumption? Many of us know people who have, who we've had to, have a harder time relating to because of their alcohol consumption. Or maybe we've been that person. It's a really big problem. So the idea that the government could maybe have some guideline on what they view as healthy is not far-fetched and not too much to ask.
alcohol on these dietary guidelines, but the implication is don't have it for breakfast.
Well, the implication of that, Mr. Oz, is that we should have it for lunch. I'm not even joking. Do you realize how stupid that sounds? Don't have it for breakfast? Yeah, don't have it for lunch either, man. And we don't need you to tell us not to have it for breakfast, and we don't need an implication, dude. You're not supposed to be implying things, you dumb loser. You absolute pathetic goon. What an anti-science administration. Like, just talk to a professional. Don't have it for breakfast? That's what we need the government telling us? Don't have alcohol for breakfast? We don't need an implication, Mr. Oz.
This should be something done a small amount with hopefully some kind of an event that might have alcohol added.
It's really beyond parody. It really is beyond parody. The government being like, our alcohol use guidelines are to have it at a party where you're celebrating something. That's not the role of the government. That's very not necessary. Just say how much is healthy and how much is unhealthy for an average body type.
But the general move away from 2 glasses of men, 1 glass of women, there was never really good data.
Okay, well, what about deaths from excessive alcohol use from 2016 to 2021, which is from the CDC from 2024, saying average annual number of deaths from excessive alcohol use, including partially and fully alcoholic attributable conditions, increased approximately 29% from in 5 years. It increased to 178,000 people dying from excessive alcohol use during 1 year, and age standardized death rates increased from approximately 38 to 48 per 100,000 people. During this time, deaths from excessive drinking among males increased approximately 27% in 5 years. And among females increased approximately 35%. Deaths from alcohol, from excessive drinking, increased 35% among women in 5 years in the United States. Evidence-based alcohol policies, which are not what Mr. Oz is advocating. It's not evidence-based at all. He's just a full-on charlatan who looks like a pathetic goon. Evidence-based alcohol policies, for example, reducing the number and concentration of places selling alcohol and increasing alcohol taxes. So actual things that the government would be doing. It's not enough for the government to say 1 to 2 drinks a day. That's just a beginning, obviously. We could literally, many of these are preventable. Like, many of these deaths are actually preventable. Just like during COVID. Many of them weren't, and many of them are. And we are murdering people by not doing what we can do on a public health level to stop preventable deaths, certain amounts of them. So increases in 27% of men, 35% of women in deaths from alcohol in 5 years. But Mr. Oz wants to say,
the general move away from 2 glasses of men, 1 glass of women, there was never really good data.
Something tells me that actually might be based on some amount of data. And actually, turns out that it might have been needing to even be decreased. And the actual limits needed to be lower on how much drinking people should have. It's not that we didn't need limits, it's that we needed the limits to be lower. Instead, they removed the guidance altogether, following firings and a multi-year industry lobbying campaign. Wonder if Oz will mention that in his answer, which he was specifically asked about. Liar. He's an omitting liar. If both men and women had 1 or fewer drinks per day, it could save thousands of U.S. lives per year. So does that matter to you? Because that kind of matters to me. But the proposal never saw the light of day. Instead, the Republican Trump administration did the opposite thing, saying no advice at all on servings. Just try to, have a good time at the party.
The support, that quantity of alcohol consumption. That data was probably primarily confused with broader data about social connectedness.
So if you're baseline intelligence, you understand that what he just said made no sense. The idea that data was about how much people should be drinking was confused with data about social connectedness. I mean, like, are you stupid, Oz? Like, do you not know how science works? Like, I mean, to be very charitable, he's saying like, oh, maybe they didn't look at the confounding variable that actually, when people have more drinks, it might have some negative impacts on their health, but the positive impacts outweigh the negative. Like, actually, people do study that, Oz. And like, I don't want you to say probably. Like, did you not look into it before you made these decisions? Everyone standing on stage here knows someone who is an alcoholic. It's incredibly common. I mean, they know someone. I mean, RFK Jr. is a recovering heroin abuser. Like, he's in recovery from heroin use. Like, I don't know. He probably had problems with alcohol too. It's incredibly common. If you have problems with one substance, have problems with another. But there's no public health understanding. At the end of the day, your personal experience is not really helpful. Like, you need a public health understanding. If you are like, these sorts of decisions can't be guided by personal experience. I mean, it just needs to be guided by actual information. And the data actually does show that thousands of deaths per year in the United States would be prevented if people drank less alcohol. And all we're asking is the government to recommend it and maybe do a few policy changes. But I obviously don't expect Republicans to do those policy changes of actually making a difference. But the least they could do is at least like do lip service. Instead, they want to do table service.